Self-employed retirement case study. This video is like a finances through the keyhole. It's a sneak peek into someone's private numbers, but with more depth and more insights than you get in the original article. So here are the numbers for today's case study. So he's age 61, she is age 56. They have 4 children. They're looking to minimize inheritance tax. They have a desired retirement income of 45,000 after tax. They currently have a self-employed salary between them of £70,000 before tax. They've got defined contribution pensions of £629,000, full state pension, mortgage of 140,000 on a £1 million house, mortgage of 126,000 on a 250k buy to let, mortgage of 8k on a 600,000 pound business premises that they own, 14k in ISAs, 44,000 in emergency funds. So quite a lot of assets, but then also quite a lot of debts. And here are the numbers shown graphically. So they've got 2.2 million of gross assets and about 1.4 million if they exclude the residential home, which should really be enough to retire on. They say they used to have a financial advisor but stopped 2 years ago because of the high fees and the disappointing investment returns, which is quite common. Their 70k in director's salaries, I reckon, nets down to about 58,000 after taxes. They say their business property could be leased for about 50,000 a year, which seems like quite a high return, and I really doubt that. I think that if you're in your 60s, your best bet is to sell the asset rather than have the hassle of renting it out and the risk of long void periods. Their buy-to-let mortgage, I reckon, is on about a 2.2% interest rate, so I think they should keep the buy-to-let until the tenant moves out or the mortgage deal ends. I reckon that a SIP invested in the best companies in the world will beat most proxy buy-to-lets, no matter how much leverage you throw at that buy-to-let. So for self-employed people with a limited company, they should make payments into a self-invested personal pension. And if they do this, there's no income tax, no dividend tax, no employers or employees' national insurance, and no corporation tax. The only problem with this is that it's difficult for them to pay into an ISA and hence have savings such that they can retire before the age of 57. So if you are entrepreneurial, it's a good idea to put money into an ISA in your early years, and then in your later years, when the business is really up and running, you put payments into a SIP, and then you have a nice balanced pot for retirement. So here is the portfolio that their financial advisor put together for them. And as you can see, there's a lot of funds there that's causing quite a lot of confusion and complexity. A lot of the equity actually just boils down to a global tracker. They've got things like Life Strategy 20 and then also Life Strategy 80, which is a bit odd because you don't need both of those. They've got a real estate index in here when they actually already own rental property. So it is a pretty odd portfolio. And also they've possibly got too much exposure to bonds, given that they're only 60 years old and they do have other assets that potentially have a stable income. So is their portfolio a bit of a car crash? Well, I'd argue potentially it is. I think it can be simplified a lot, and I do portfolio coaching where I help people to put together a portfolio that meets their investment objectives. And if you're interested, here's the website. So I think they should have an overall portfolio objective, which should be to deliver their wealth plan and around about 6% growth. I think as a sub-objective, their SIP should be around long-term growth, and they should have money in an ISA more around shorter-term needs and lower volatility. They should have a documented process, and unfortunately, IFAs often don't educate their clients, whereas a coach is more likely to do so. So here is their sources of income over time. I've assumed they've sold the commercial property in 2024, and then they sell the rental property in 2027. So that means they can largely live off of ISAs because that's where they can put the proceeds of the asset sales, and then they can also live off state pensions. They can also live off defined benefit pensions. And then when the ISAs run out, then they become a bit more reliant on SIPs at the later end of the portfolio. And here's their wealth over time, where they've got the rental property, they've got a lot of taxed investments initially from the proceeds of the commercial property, but they migrate these taxed investments into ISAs, largely live off the ISAs. SIP keeps growing, and then eventually the SIP is funding their later stage life. And then also, because the SIP is free of inheritance tax at the moment, it's a great asset to pass on to their children. It seems like their wealth grows quite a lot over time, but actually all of the growth is inflation. And when we take inflation out of the numbers, they have about purchasing power of £1 million throughout the life of the wealth plan. And here's the tax that they're paying. And as you can see, they hardly pay any income tax because they're largely living off of ISAs from the sale proceeds of the commercial property and the buy-to-let. So they can easily live off their desired retirement income of £42,000 after tax. Also, they're not fully utilising their tax-free cash, so there is money left over for luxuries such as a new kitchen, new bathroom, or for maybe any unplanned large expenditures that might come along. You might wonder why wealthy people go on money makeovers. Well, the problem is that people aren't very good at translating wealth into income, and sometimes they don't trust financial advisors who often charge them a lot of money, such as £1,500 for a wealth plan, which seems like a lot of money. So maybe these people need a rock solid income portfolio that will help them to realize their dreams in retirement. And if that's you, then check out this next video.